now 6:30 p.m. It is now 6:30 p.m., and I would like to call the regular Cultural Heritage Commission meeting of December 21st, 2023 to order. Before I proceed, I would like to take a moment to go over our meeting protocols for today. The South Pasadena Cultural Heritage Commission meeting for December 21st, 2023 will be conducted in person. To maximize public safety while still maintaining transparency and public access, members of the public can observe the meeting via Zoom. And now I will ask staff to please take the roll call.
Commissioner Cross,
Present.
Commissioner Ding,
Here.
Commissioner Morris, Chair Gallatin,
Here.
and Vice Chair Lopez has an excused absence. We have quorum.
Thank you. Next up is approval of the agenda. Commissioners, do you have any requests for additions or revisions to the agenda? If so, could you please raise your hand? Okay, seeing none, I would like a vote of the commission to proceed with approval of the agenda as submitted. We can do a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay. Next is the disclosure by commissioners of site visits and ex parte contact for items on today's agenda. I'll begin with Commissioner Cross.
I made a visit, just a street view of Edgewood, and that's it.
Commissioner Ding.
Nothing to report.
Commissioner Morris.
Site visits.
Hey, and I drove by the sites at 626 Stratford and 1921 Edgewood. Okay, now is the time for public comment. This is public comment for general items that are not on tonight's agenda. Staff, have we received any public comment cards from people here in person, or do we have anyone on Zoom who wishes to comment?
We haven't received any public comment on chambers. Guests on Zoom, please click the hand icon to make a public comment on matters not on the agenda. We don't have any public comments on Zoom.
Thank you. Next is our consent calendar items. We have 3 items on tonight's consent calendar. Items listed under the consent calendar are considered by the Cultural Heritage Commission to be routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion unless a public comment has been received or a commissioner requests otherwise, in which case the item will be removed for separate consideration. And staff, are there any speakers on Zoom or in person that would like to speak on consent items?
We don't have anyone in person. Guests on Zoom, please click the hand icon if you wish to make a public comment on the consent items. No comments on Zoom.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, are there any items that you would like to pull from the consent calendar?
I would like to pull Stratford at least, and I have a couple questions on the print, so I think they asked them I need to pull it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so Commissioner Morris has requested to pull items 3 and 4, which is 626 Stratford Avenue and 1917 LaFrance Avenue. That leaves one item remaining on the consent calendar, item 2, the minutes from the regular meeting of September 21st, 2023. And I would entertain a motion at this time for approval of those minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve agenda item number 2, minutes of the regular meeting, September 21st, 2023.
I would just have one correction that stuck out at me, which was that there was a vote on the first one, 3-0, but there were 4 people present.
Oh,
And I can't remember where I saw it. Saw it on the minutes.
Yeah, to the approval of the agenda, you're right.
Yeah. So that would be 4-0.
mhm.
That's all.
Okay. Maker of the motion, okay with that amendment?
Yes.
Okay. I'll entertain a second then.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Ding and a second by Commissioner Cross. And staff, could we please have roll call?
Commissioner Cross,
Yes.
Commissioner Ding,
Yes.
Commissioner Morris, and Chair Gallatin.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, we will now take up the matter of 626 Stratford Avenue. This is a request for a certificate of appropriateness for partial demolition of a 529 square foot detached garage and a request to rebuild the structure with the same square footage. And to present the staff report, we have our planning technician, Tatiana Marin.
Good evening, Commission. I am Tatiana Marin, and I am bringing you item number 3 on the agenda for today. Project number 2605 COA is a consent calendar item. The applicant is requesting a certificate of appropriateness for the partial demolition of a 529 square foot detached garage and to rebuild the structure with the same square footage, replace the existing doors, windows, and roof located at 626 Stratford Avenue. Per the South Pasadena Municipal Code, the proposed project is considered a minor project review, subject to the approval of the Cultural Heritage Commission Chair. Chair Gallatin has reviewed the project and determined the subject request would need further evaluation by the Commission in accordance with Section 2.65E4 of the South Pasadena Municipal Code. If the chair or his or her designee determines that the proposed minor project needs additional review by the Commission, he or she may elect to place it on the Commission's next meeting. The project was noticed per the public notice requirements as a consent calendar item on this agenda. The recommendation from staff is for the Commission to review the proposed submittal, which is attachment number 1 in the staff report, and determine the appropriateness of the proposed project. This concludes my presentation. The applicant is here in attendance to answer any questions you may have. Matt and I are also here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Does anyone have any questions of staff? Tatiana, I had one question. Well, actually two, sorry. In the plans that were submitted in the scope of work, it describes it as a partial demolition of an existing garage and renovation of existing garage. Is it still considered a partial demolition and renovation? Or is it considered a complete demolition if only one wall is proposed to remain?
I'm going to refer to Matt to that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Gallatin. Matt Chang, Planning Manager here. So thank you for the question. So in our municipal code, South Pasadena Municipal Code, we don't have a kind of clear, defined definition of what demolition is. So what staff did at this for this particular project is staff took the project scope submitted by the applicant and kind of uses project description for this particular project. So, and like Tatiana mentioned before, the applicant is here to answer any questions, and staff is aware of that, the building itself. I guess the appearance of the building is not exactly what's currently existing. If you look at the submitted photo, it's currently right now, they are not existing. So perhaps the applicant can describe, was it part of a building to be demolished or a whole thing was to be demolished? Because staff doesn't have that information with the staff at this point.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. One other question for staff. It appears again from the plan submitted from the site plan that the proposed new garage is going to be on the exact same footprint as the existing garage. And my question is, how is that possible when the existing garage is apparently right on the north property line and less than 10 feet away from the ADU? Those are both legal non-conforming situations. How are they able to rebuild with those non-conformities?
To my understanding, when I looked at the Sanborn maps, this was the original footprint of the property. So when I took in this project and they proposed a partial demolition with the same square footage and on the property lines, it was my understanding that they would be able to maintain those non-conforming setbacks. So.
And I only raised the question because we have another item that we'll be discussing after this one, which was also a proposed demolition and rebuild of a garage, and they actually moved their new garage or proposed garage further away so that they could comply with the setback requirements. And I was curious why that wasn't required in this case.
Thank you. Staff is understanding that the proposal submitted by the applicant is partial demolitions. I know for a lot of partial demolition is like which wall you're keeping. So it is staff evaluation during the project review that part of the garage is kind of remain. So of course you got 4 different walls. If you keep 2 or 3 walls, you kind of still keep that existing nonconformity, which like Chair Gallatin mentioned before. So that's how we treat the existing kind of setback.
So just so I'm clear, by virtue of keeping one of the 4 walls, the applicant retained his non-conforming rights?
And that's correct.
All right, that's the only questions I had. Thank you, staff. I think we'll now give the applicant an opportunity, if he wishes, to make a presentation.
Hello, I'm Michael Lucinian. I'm the individual or an applicant that submitted all the drawings and has prepared what you see in front of you. So based on the existing shed, I know that we're here because it was deemed to be an historic property. And we want to see or justify our demolition of that kind of shed. So digging into the history of this property, I wanted to determine why the shed itself was deemed as historic and why we would have to go through this chair review to look at that. So in my search, I didn't come across any record drawings, unfortunately. But so I had to resort to looking at the South Pasadena Historic Survey report from June 2017. And then during this report, it pretty much listed all the properties in South Pasadena and displayed whether it was within an associated historical district and whether its status code changed during the 2015-2016 evaluation that was done. Looking at the report, the property remained under the same status because it was not reevaluated during the 2015-2016 reevaluation. Just based off of my historic status understanding, if the survey suggests that it was significant, then I would think it would have warranted for it to be reevaluated to deem that the status of that property would still hold as historic. Additionally, based on the existing conditions of the shed, it wasn't necessarily too appealing of a property and posed more kind of damage and detriment to the neighborhood and the neighbors based on its dilapidated condition and the hazardous roof that was leaking water, damaging the owner's properties in the backyard. Based on my conversation with the owner, he did also express that some of the neighbors had original complaints with the existing shed. So our intention is not to take away from the community, but to bring the shed back to its original condition and to make it a more usable space. Additionally, based on the proposed scope of work, we are not proposing any major changes regarding mechanical, electrical, or plumbing, meaning that the shed will stay with its original use and will be brought up the code. Additionally, based on the current assessment of the shed, there were areas that were not structurally sound nor or seemed that they wouldn't comply with current codes. So our intention would be to bring those areas back to code to make it more structurally sound and continue to last on the property. So based on this proposal, we hope you consider the alignment with the historical preservation objectives and understand that we will implement the architectural standards and take aesthetics and renovation into consideration for the shed project. Thank you.
Thank you. If you'll remain there for just a moment, and I'll ask my fellow commissioners if they have any questions for the applicant's representative. Commissioner Cross? Commissioner Morrish? Well, if you wish, let me start off, Mr. Lusunian,
Mhm.
with a couple questions about material. Your proposal in the plans is to use a real wood material, a form of plywood called Duratemp, which I wasn't familiar with. I had to Google it and learn about it. And my question is, and this relates to the north wall, which is very, very close, if not on the north property line. Is Duratemp a fire rated material, or are you achieving a fire rating by installing 5/8 inch drywall on the inside?
We will be adding drywall on the inside. Based on the assessment, the roof eave and the wall will be proposed to be fire rated for the ones that are closer to the property line. If the drawings do not yet reflect that type of wall, then it will be adjusted to reflect the fire rated wall on the north side that is closer to that property, along with a 1 hour rated roof eave.
Right. Then the second question is, well, it's actually more of a comment than a
Mhm.
question. I see again from the plans that the windows proposed on the new structure are vinyl. And per our design guidelines, vinyl is not an appropriate material on historic structures or historic properties. Therefore, we would recommend that if we choose to approve the application tonight, I will suggest a condition of approval that that window material be changed to either wood, wood-clad, fiberglass, or a composite window material. And the basis for this is found on page 48 of our design guidelines for historic homes, which says windows and doors on accessory structures should be compatible with the primary structure. The materials, finish, and colors should also match. Just wanted to make that comment.
Sure.
I will also comment by saying, well, first let me back up by way of introduction for the benefit of the public that's here and that might be watching on Zoom, and in the interest of full transparency, I want to take a moment just to explain why this application and the next one are here before the full commission as opposed to being a chair review. In both cases, tonight, these projects contemplate demolition of accessory buildings, garages, on properties that are listed on our cultural resources inventory. By virtue of the fact that they're on the inventory, they're subject to the review of this commission. And typically, accessory structure demolitions and rebuilds would be done, I think as staff mentioned, as a minor project review, and it would come to me as the chair. And the dilemma I was having was that our municipal code requires that if you're going to demolish a structure over 45 years old and your property is not on the cultural resources inventory, you're required to do a report called a historic resource evaluation. Yet if your property is on the inventory and you're going to demolish a structure 45 years or older, that's not a requirement. It seemed backwards to me. It seemed like it should be required anytime, but that's not what the code says. So in the interest of, taking advantage of the knowledge and skills of my fellow commissioners, I made the request that we place these two items on tonight's agenda. So that's why we're here tonight, just so everybody understands. I also want to say that with respect to the necessity to demolish the existing structure, at least in my mind, the evidence presented is pretty overwhelming. I didn't see the existing structure in person, but certainly the photographs and the descriptions show a level of deterioration that was crying out for for demolition. So that being said, Imagine my surprise when I visited the site today and saw the new garage already built, 95% built. I think just the attic vents were missing. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about how that came to be. But first, I think let's see if the balance of our commission has any other questions for you. Commissioner Ding?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. Okay. All right, and staff, just to be clear, this is not a public hearing, right? So we don't have to open a public hearing.
Chair Gallatin, Matt Chang, planning manager here again. Actually, since you're correct, this item is not a public hearing. However, at the beginning of the consent calendar item, we already announced whether any general public would like to make in person or Zoom comment, and which we did. So
Right.
I think the commissioner can definitely continue on the dialogue discussion about this project and then the next.
Okay, very good. In that case, then, Mr. Lucinian, you're entitled to a rebuttal of 3 minutes.
Okay. So when I initially started on the project, I was hired to just create drawings for the new shed, without having knowledge of the status of what the status was of the previous shed, nor the one that was on the site. So for that reason, because I do not have the background on how that shed came to be at the moment, I did come with the owner as well to explain his background on, the lifetime or the time frame between the existing shed and what it stands as today, to reflect the background of that.
Okay.
So I have Ken here. I could also just explain. I did talk to him earlier today to understand what uh, the process was behind the building of the shed.
Right.
And based on what he explained to me was that he essentially ended up being in a bad deal with a contractor who
Hmm.
claimed that he was gonna permit the shed and construct the shed. And he essentially went under contract with the guy, and who was supposed to be working on it when he was out of town, and then come to find out that the guy built the shed that you see without having any permits, and then cut all forms of contact with the owner, Ken. So that was when he, being in the predicament he reached out to me to come help with
Okay.
the situation.
Yeah,
Shed,
I appreciate that. I appreciate you being forthright with us on
Mhm.
that. Okay, then now would be the time for commission discussion, and who would like to lead off?
I guess I'm still not clear on, I'm not sure exactly if I understand the process of if there were no permits pulled, what's the process now? And that zero lot, I mean, the fact that that north property, that the shed is on the north property line and doesn't have any setback to the ADU, would that have been caught if the permit was pulled? Or are you saying that the existing nonconformities would remain no matter what? Maybe you could address that, Matt, about what you do at this point.
Well, if I could just add one thing, I guess we haven't really, do we know what, so yeah, that was surprising what you said, but do we know if one wall was actually retained or any walls were retained, or if the entire thing was demolished and rebuilt? Then I think that's a different conversation than if, the areas of deterioration were addressed and certain walls remained in place or a certain percentage of the original structure remained in place versus
Right.
if it's entirely new.
Yeah,
And I think that will make a difference at least in my view.
yeah. And
With
so
regard to setback
I'll
and
turn
authority.
back to the applicant and his representative. Are you able to answer that question regarding the north wall? Was it retained or is everything out there brand new?
From what I understood, the north and south walls, which
Mhm.
were the shorter ones, were the
Right.
ones that were remained, and then the longer walls were the ones that were removed due to the fact that the roof pitch has changed from what
Correct.
was originally there. And yeah, so from my understanding, the footprint is the same. And then from as far as the relationship from where the existing structure was to the ADU, there was, from what I saw, an existing 7 feet or 8 feet of separation
Mhm.
between the two.
Okay, Matt, if you want to address Commissioner Morris's question and Commissioner Ding's question about, you know, what is the relevance of the fact that the existing walls, two of the existing walls apparently remain versus none of them?
Yes, I think applicant clarify, the two walls are gonna remain. So in this case, the existing setback, they can continue as a non-conformity. And what, the commissioner can deliberate or decides, for example, the, the architectural evaluation of the project, the siding, like Chair Gallatin mentioned before, for example, the window and door, that particular aspect of it. So, and also the commission can deliberate to see if there are adequate finding to approve this project or to make certain modification. So, or to a point that commission can find enough finding to support this this particular design or a revised design if the commission does choose to recommend the applicant to make changes to the project.
And is one of the findings that we have to make that the existing structure was not historically significant and therefore can be demolished?
One of the attachment here is the findings.
It's attachment 2.
An attachment to. Yeah,
Matt, I think I found it. I think.
yeah, I know it's
Might be
attachment
an
to proposed
11,
project.
or Roman numeral X.
I think, for example, project specific finding number 1 is did the project remove any inappropriate alteration of the past? So that's something that commission can look at it. And the other ones will be is the project itself is appropriate in terms of size, massing, and design context of the historical neighborhoods. And I know usually for a particular project that staff usually come with a finding and recommendations. Since this project is kind of unique in the sense that it's a minor project review subject to the chair review. So staff didn't feel comfortable providing recommendation because initially it's supposed to be a CHC Cultural Heritage Commission chair review. So in this case, staff wants to present all the information, the background to the whole commission for review, but staff didn't feel comfortable or appropriate, let's put it this way, to kind of provide any type of recommendations.
Yeah, I understand.
But now that we're discussing, it, we do have to make these mandatory findings and the project specific findings.
Yes.
Yes. And then Matt, could you tell me what is the process for something that's been built without permits? What would the applicant do now?
The projects, even for the building that didn't get a proper permit from the city, they're still required to go to the appropriate process, which this is the first step to determine whether the location design is appropriate. And of course, they still need to get an appropriate permit and also construction document to finalize the permit process, but also for inspection purposes, the inspector will still need to kind of make sure the construction itself to comply with all the building codes. So even though they did all the work without permit, I think the summary is they still need to comply all the procedures, assuming there's new construction to begin with. And I think the fee will be there'll be a double fee as a penalty for work without permits.
Let me ask you, Matt, is there any discretion allowed by the municipal code or the building code in assessing that double penalty? The situation, as I've understood it, is the homeowners hired a gentleman who represented himself as a contractor and said that he would pull permits and, build the structure to code and do it the right way. He clearly failed to do that, and now the property owners are left essentially holding the bag. Is it an automatic sort of thing, or is there any discretion for staff to take into consideration extenuating circumstances?
There is something that staff can explore, and I think another item that staff want to mention is that since this item it is kind of a co-enforcement action, a case, so staff can get into too much of a specific detail since
Sure, right.
there's an enforcement action. So staff, there's something that staff can look into.
Other questions of
Oh, yeah.
staff?
We had another question come up, was that of the two walls that were retained, do we know if they're original or were replaced at some point in the past and are there photographs or anything?
Based on what the shed looked like, I think it's safe to assume that those were the original walls. And from how long you've lived there, have you changed anything? Oh, okay.
I think that's something we need the answer to with an inspection or photographs or something
Mhm.
before
Yeah.
we decide. It's
I
my-
mean,
my 2 cents.
staff, I appreciate the links that staff has gone to provide us with everything
Mhm.
on file, including all prior permits. I didn't see any prior permits, making reference to any alterations in the past to the garage. So therefore, I was assuming that the, what was represented as the existing walls were the original walls. But clearly, that's an issue that would be looked at during the inspection phase to determine whether, in fact, that is new construction. And Matt, I'm sorry, another question. If the inspector determined that it is new, and I'm referring to the north wall now,
Mhm.
would he require that the structure be relocated to provide a conforming setback? Or are there other means of compliance, and specifically talking about fire rating?
So in this case, I think if like the applicant mentioned, that if the wall is very close to the parking lot, of course you need to have a fire rated wall to ensure adequate building safety and fire safety. So if the inspector did inspect, found the wall to be fairly newer conditions, and what we have is we do have I think when we get to that point, we already have approved a set of plans with staff as well as with the applicant, and at that time staff will be working with the applicant to identify solutions to kind of beef up the wall to have a 1 hour separation, or identify the way to see if for example, a relocation or a variance needs to be filed. But I guess we don't know that answer until
Building inspector.
once they get to the, of course, permitting, reviewing the construction plan, also inspection stages.
Do you have other questions of
Well,
staff?
I'm not sure how this ever ends, or, and if it's our purview at some point, does the staff just resolve this themselves, or what are we doing to?
Well, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think what our responsibility tonight is to determine the answer to the question, did, well, I'll still refer to it in the present tense, even though it's not there. Does the existing garage have historic significance such that it would, such that it should not be demolished? And as I pointed out in the earlier remarks, because this is on our inventory, ironically, it's not required to produce a historic resource evaluation to answer that question. And so what we are left with is what we have, which is all of the documentation on record. And again, I want to thank staff for their work on this because just, I guess, prior to the meeting, we were provided with this page, which is from October 1st, 2002, which was the 2002-2003 citywide survey, the one that preceded the one in 2015-16. And I had talked to staff a day or two ago to see if we could locate these primary record forms, what's called a DPS 523 form, for the express purpose of seeing if there was any reference on this form to the garage. Because the fact that the garage existed on a property that had a main house that was determined to be historically significant doesn't automatically mean or confer that the accessory building was historically significant. And sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. And when they are, they're typically noted as such on these primary record forms. So to me, this is a real important piece of evidence here in helping me to make a determination as to whether that existing garage was historic or not. So I'd welcome any other questions or any other opinions about the historic significance or lack thereof of the existing garage.
I imagine it was historic, because I believe it probably was there, but it was so dilapidated that there's not a chance in the world that it was not going to fall in on itself. So I think at some point we probably would have approved a COA or whatever we'd have to do to allow them to rebuild the garage. And then make it compatible to all the other things that the issue required to do.
I think, you know, I articulated what the main question before us is. And if we answer that question in the affirmative, that, well, no, let me rephrase that. If we answer that in the negative, that, we determine the existing garage was not historically significant and therefore could be demolished, then I think the second question before us is, are we okay with the proposed design and materials of the proposed garage? But we need to answer that first question first. I will poll my fellow commissioners unless unless you wish to have further discussion on the topic. So I'll turn to my right and I'll ask Commissioner Ding, where stand you on the question of historic significance?
I think it's not historically significant.
Mhm. Commissioner Cross?
I don't find it necessarily historic. It probably started out with a dirt floor. Probably concrete was added at a later date. That's how old this structure was. And in those days, they put very little money into a garage in the construction. The construction, these types of structures were real questionable. So I don't have a problem with it being totally renovated. The setbacks, I'm uncertain about, but
Commissioner Morris?
I am on.
Okay. care to elaborate on
I mean,
the
I
lack of
believe
clarity?
it probably was an original garage
Mhm.
and therefore historic to the extent that it was built when the house was built. It's over 45 years. We don't have known anything else about it at this stage of the game. So, having said that, it was going to fall down and we probably would have looked at it differently if it hadn't already been the work in. So at this stage of the game, I would move this project forward from us and onto staff to see what how they rectify this.
Okay. And again, for my part, I don't disagree with the assessment that the existing garage was the original garage. Obviously, it's had a lot of wear and tear over the years to the point of deterioration. What's compelling for me, though, is this primary record from the 2002 survey and the absence of any mention of the garage as a character defining feature of the property of the site. And so based on that and the totality of the record before us, it's my opinion that the existing garage is not historically significant. So staff, it looks like we have an emerging consensus on that question. So I believe we can move forward to the next question, which is, how do we feel about the replacement garage and its design?
I think that we could probably approve, provided they work out the back issue from the staff standpoint, we could probably approve this structure. I would clarify, I would very much want you to remove the vinyl windows and clarify the sunburst thing over the door.
Mhm.
There's sometimes it's shown and sometimes it isn't. Is that a faux thing or is that real? I don't know. But otherwise, it's a simple shed structure.
Commissioner Jane?
I would agree with Commissioner Morris, just mostly on the materials
Yeah,
that they're compatible.
okay. Commissioner Cross?
Well, I really have nothing further to add, but I'd just like to see it work for the owner and perhaps we should ask that he get the neighbor's signature or sign off or a less of setback.
Well, you raise a really good point that I hadn't thought of until just now. And that is, if the applicant's allowed to proceed and keep the new structure with that, what's essentially a zero setback on the north side, would there be any value in adding a condition of approval that they get a letter or written permission from the neighbor to maintain it in the future? Because I could see, maybe it starts off painted, looking great, and in 5 or 10 years, it's time for a new coat of paint, but they cannot get to that side unless they go to the neighbor's property to access it.
Regarding to Chair Gallatin's question, I think the what staff can approach is more. I think it's have to be some type of best faith effort because I think the key is the other property owner on the other side
Mhm.
isn't present today.
Well, that's true.
So the question actually, the condition imposed, it could affect another property owner,
Mhm.
which isn't present today to to elaborate, to
Right.
agree or disagree. So
Right.
I think what we can do or commission can do is more a best faith effort, but staff doesn't feel comfortable just making it very specific to that condition.
Well, I guess the saving grace is that there's an alley behind the property and one could probably approach that wall from the alley and, gain access with a pole or something to paint it. But, you make an excellent point about the other party not being present. So it would not be appropriate to impose a condition without their input.
Currently, the site wall between the neighboring properties doesn't extend all the way to the shed.
Mhm.
So as far as right now, that there is no barrier between the shed and the neighboring property.
There's a wall that stops somewhere short of that.
Yeah. There's a wall that stops short of the shed with a gate out from there.
Okay, are we ready to make a motion?
Yes, I think I could make a motion that we, well, really send this back to staff, but if, from CHC standpoint, we can make the mandatory findings and the project-specific findings to rebuild this shed as proposed, with the conditions that the windows are not vinyl windows, but rather
Mhm.
something more appropriate. Clarify the sunburst, whether it exists or doesn't, over the front door, but with the other existing materials as shown.
On the project-specific findings, were there at least
Yes.
3 that you wanted
I can make,
memorialized?
yes. Number 2, project number 2, that's appropriate to the size and context of the historic neighborhood. It will not adversely affect the character of the historic district. And number 11, the demolition is appropriate because it's going to fall down.
Okay, we have a motion
I'll second.
and we have a second. Staff, could we please take the roll?
Commissioner Cross,
Yes.
Commissioner Ding,
Yes.
Commissioner Morris, Chair Gallatin.
Yes,
Motion carries.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Tatiana.
Good luck, guys.
No, it was an unprecedented. Mhm. You're welcome, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, next we will take up the other item from the consent calendar, which is 1917 La France. And this also is a request for certificate of appropriateness for demolition of a 370 square foot garage and permission to rebuild the structure with the same square footage. And again, Tatiana will present that report.
Thank you, Chair Gallatin. I am now bringing you item number 4 on the agenda for today. Project number 2606 COA is also a consent calendar item. The applicant is requesting a certificate of appropriateness for the demolition of a 370 square foot detached garage and to rebuild a new garage in the same style and square footage located at 1917 La France Avenue. Per the South Pasadena Municipal Code, the proposed project is also considered a minor project review, subject to the approval of the Cultural Heritage Commission Chair. Chair Gallatin has reviewed the project and determined the subject request would need further evaluation by the Commission in accordance with Section 2.65 E4 of the South Pasadena Municipal Code. If the chair, his or her designee, determines that the proposed minor project needs additional review by the Commission, he or she may elect to place it on the Commission's next consent calendar. This project has also been noticed per the public notice requirement as a consent calendar item on the agenda. The recommendation from staff is for the Commission to review the proposed submittal, which is attachment 1 in the staff report, and determine the appropriateness of the proposed project. This also concludes my presentation. The applicant is also here in attendance to answer any questions, as well as Matt and myself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions of staff? No, no questions. Okay. Did you say the applicant is present?
Yes,
Tonight?
correct.
Okay. And he has the opportunity to make a presentation if he wishes. Please state your name and address for the record, sir.
My name is Jeff Silverman. My address is 930 North Bushnell in Alhambra. But I am the owner of this property, and my daughter and son-in-law and their 3 girls live at this property. The reason we're looking to demolish the garage, originally we had hoped to be able to renovate the garage, and in fact, we did a submittal and got approval to do the renovation through planning. And then when we went to building and safety, we started running into a lot of issues related to the setbacks and the requirements for fire ratings, because the setbacks do not meet current code on two sides of the structure. We then felt with the amount of work we would need to do and the poor condition of the structure itself, many of the rafters were broken. The roof was sagging. And I believe there's a concrete floor, but we had it measured. It's not very thick. The building isn't even attached to the concrete floor. So the feeling was, why don't we demolish the building, move it to an appropriate place on the site where we would be able to meet the setback requirements, and then rebuild it as close to original as we possibly could. The only change in the structure is to increase the height of the walls, because the walls are so short that the rafter tails are about 6 feet off the ground. We've already had several accidents where people have hit their heads on the rafter tails. So we'd like to make it a little bit taller, but other than that, basically just keep it the same. We love the historic nature of the home. We want to try to maintain that. We've owned many historic homes. We own a historic home in Alhambra. We just, with my son, purchased a historic home on Fletcher in South Pass, and we're doing some work. We have all our building permits. All the work's on the inside and the foundation of the home. We had a historic home on Oaklawn Avenue. We had a historic home on Stratford Avenue. So,
Wow.
yeah,
I'm just
we-
curious, what block of Stratford?
We lived at 1221 Stratford
Oh,
Avenue.
gosh, you were my neighbor. I live at 1213.
So, yeah, we've been in South Pasadena a long time. My wife was a teacher here for many years. My daughter's teaching here now. Grandkids are all in South Pass schools. So, yeah, we love South Pasadena and we love the historical nature of it and want to try to maintain it. So I really do appreciate you looking at this project.
Well, thank you. We appreciate all those comments. If you'll remain there just for a second.
Sure.
Did anybody have any questions of the applicant?
I didn't see specifics on the windows or the garage door. Do
Yeah.
you know what you're gonna replace those windows with?
Well, we're either gonna do wooden windows or wood clad windows that we can get as close to looking as, I don't know if we can get the exact same design.
And what is the existing garage doors?
It's just the wood. Yeah, it's just the inexpensive wooden door.
You put a wood, right, you tend to put a wood garage.
Right, exactly. Yeah, part of the problem too was if the existing building, the north wall has so many windows in it, that wall is not structurally sound and you can actually see the sagging of the roof. And that may have led to some of the rafters breaking in the roof as well from the sagging.
Commissioner Cross, any questions of?
No
the applicant?
questions.
Okay, Commissioner Deng, no questions. Just one question. This is probably actually more appropriate for staff. On the plans, on the first page of the plans, it indicates the zoning of the property is RS-6. Now, I know we have an RS is our single family zone, but RS-6, I've never seen that before. Is that just a typo?
You mentioned on the first page of the
Yes,
plans?
uh-huh. The second row on the first column under development standards.
So matching planning manager here. So to answer Chair Gallatin's questions, yes, we only have RS, RE, but we don't have RS6. So there could be a couple of things. It could be a typo from the applicant when they submit the plans, or sometimes it's typical when the applicant designer they borrows kind of status code, zoning code information. They borrow from the county record. Sometimes the county record is not really a local zoning code because
Right.
staff notice a lot that they're using a different code that staff is unaware of. So I think that's what happened here. But
Mhm.
to answer Chair Gallatin's question, the zoning is RS.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I had no other questions of the applicant, so I think then we can begin commission discussion. I'll look to one of my three colleagues to begin that. Yes. Now, and staff, I just want to correct something for the record. The question I just asked about the zoning, now I am looking through my bifocals and I see that that was the plans for 1921 Edgewood, which we haven't heard yet. So thank you for bearing with my ignorance.
I don't have any comments except that I'm prepared to make a motion unless anybody has any.
Mhm.
specifics.
I have none.
I would make a motion. We approve the project as submitted. We can make the mandatory findings. We can make project-specific findings. Number 2, that the project's appropriate to the size and massing context of the neighborhood. Number 6, the project enhances the appearance without adversely affecting the original design. And number 7, the project will not adversely affect the character of the historic district.
Okay,
So agreed.
okay. Seconded by Commissioner Cross. Staff, can we
Yes.
please have roll?
Commissioner Cross,
Yes.
Commissioner Ding,
Yes.
Commissioner Morris,
Yes,
Chair Gallatin.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Congratulations, your project is approved.
good luck. Right, all right. You too. Happy holidays.
And at this point, we're going to take a moment to hear from Commissioner Ding, who needs to recuse himself from our next item.
Yeah, for agenda item number 5, I have a financial interest in property within 1,000 feet of the project site. So I will be recusing myself and I will return when it's done.
Okay, very good. So we'll wait a moment here while Commissioner Ding leaves the chambers. And once that's complete, then we will open the public hearing for this next item. Okay, we have only one public hearing on tonight's agenda, and this one is for 1921 Edgewood Drive. It's a request for certificate of appropriateness for a 151 square foot first story addition and a 933 square foot second story addition in an existing 1,515 square foot one story single family home located at 1921 Edgewood Drive. And to present the staff report, we have our senior planner, Dean Flores.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair, members of the commission. My name is Dean Flores, Senior Planner, and I'll be presenting the certificate of appropriateness for this project located at 1921 Edgewood Drive. So the property is located in the RS Single Family Zone. It's approximately 7,444 square feet in size. And it's located on the south side of Edgewood in between Milan Avenue and Shelton Way. So the existing home was originally built in 1925 and currently features 1,515 square feet, single story. The architectural style of the home is an English Tudor revival that's characterized by its steep roof slope, wood casement windows, and a porte-cochere. And the subject site itself is considered a contributor to the eligible Edgewood district. So for the project description, the certificate of appropriateness, the project applicant is proposing that the existing home will be remodeled on the interior and exterior, demolition of 32 square feet on the first floor. First story would be 151 square feet addition, second story 933 square feet, and a new 148 square foot rear patio or porch. In addition, there's a tree removal to remove one non-protected tree, which the applicant already obtained a preliminary clearance from the Public Works Department. As far as the zoning compliance, the project with the proposal remains in compliance with the applicable development standards, including FAR, lot coverage, setbacks, parking, building height, second story setbacks, as shown in the staff report and on this table here. The site plan shows that the second story addition, it's towards the middle and the rear of the existing home, so it won't be prominent in the front. The first floor addition is be mostly on the west side of the home, just to expand the existing, you can see here on the floor plan, just to expand or relocate the kitchen and create a new family room on that side. As far as the second story, the purpose is to add 3 new bedrooms to make it a 4-bedroom home in total. For the proposed elevations, as you can see here, the front elevation, for the most part, remains unchanged. Really, the only difference is, as you can see, the new dormer window on the east side of the home and the removal of the existing chimney to accommodate the new second story addition. So this slide shows the east elevation where, as you can see, the shaded area here is the location of the second story. And it'll feature a new flat roof on top. And the purpose of this was to limit the overall massing and bulk of the second story, as previous iterations of the design were to be a lot higher than what's currently shown now. So after talks with the applicant, we had them reduce the massing of the proposed addition, and this is what they came up with. And as you can see here, you'll see the new dormer windows and new windows and doors throughout. This one shows the south elevation where, again, you can see the flat roof being proposed, but there's also the new hip roof for the proposed rear porch. And then this one shows the west elevation, but also shows the 45-degree angle, which is the one highlighted in red. So shows that they're in compliance with this standard as well. And again, it shows the new dormer windows and how the second story is basically in line with the existing roof line. And this shows the roof plan here where you can see that the new roof continues from the east-west portion of the hip roof towards the front. So it just continues it backwards. Regarding the building materials, again, everything they're proposing is consistent with the existing home. They're using wood casement windows for all the new windows. French doors that are wood French doors, exterior plaster, and roof shingles to match. And they've also provided some 3D renderings, which you can see here, which kind of highlights a better view of the proposal overall. With respect to the design requirements, the staff report includes further discussion, but I'll just highlight a few here. On page 36 of the design, the city's design guidelines, the additions shall be located towards the rear of the existing home rather than the front. Additions shall be compatible in mass and scale with the home itself and the neighborhood as a whole. Additions placed at the rear to minimize the visual impact from the public right-of-way, and that the facade treatments and design elements are to be consistent with the existing building and architectural style. Just also wanted to note that the project was noticed accordingly. Mailers went out and staff did not receive any public comments for this project. That said, staff recommends that the Cultural Heritage Commission first find the project exempt from CEQA pursuant to sections 15301 and for existing facilities and 15331 for rehabilitation of historic resources. And secondly, approve project number 2577 COA and TRE, subject to the conditions of approval. And that concludes my presentation. Staff is available for any questions you have, and the applicant is here as well.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Dean. Does anyone have any questions of staff? No, okay, very good. Turn to the applicant. Does the applicant have a presentation you'd like to make? You don't have to, but you can at this point if you wish. Good evening.
Gallatin and members of the board. I don't have a formal presentation, but I wanted to just take a moment and introduce you to the property owners, Ben and Jenny Thompson, who are able to join us this evening. I have a couple of requests for clarification with staff of some information that was presented in the report that's not accurate.
Okay.
And I don't want to make a big deal out of it, but we actually, the staff report says we submitted on May 25th, 2023, and we actually submitted on April 3rd. It's about 7 weeks before that. On page 6, and I have to apologize because I only saw this late last night, so I haven't been able to speak with staff about it. But on page 8, it says in the middle of the page, the new addition is located in the middle and the rear of the home and increases the height by no more than 2 feet. In fact, the addition doesn't increase the height of the house at all. And there are permits that are part of this report that actually aren't for this house street address. It's for 1923 Edgewood. So there's references to a pool permit. There is actually a pool that was built and the garage was relocated, but those are recent permits that aren't reflected in here. I don't think, I'm happy to address any of the questions that you have about the design. Well, if I may back up, my name is Georgie Cager and I'm the architect. And I'm very grateful to staff, to Matt and to Dean for their assistance preparing the staff report. And I'm very happy and relieved that we were able to get to a point where staff could support our project. You know, this is almost 9 months that we've been in process, and I'm very grateful for the open channels of communication with staff and that we're able to get to a place that because we did have a different proposal that was a little bit taller. And I think we resolved it successfully. My clients are very happy with the design. You know, they love the house. You know, they bought this house to stay in this you know, to stay in the city, send their kids to school. And I think we're doing our best to bring this house into the 21st century and to reflect the fact that there's a family that's there. So if I can answer any questions for you about the architectural design, I'd be happy to.
Well, we certainly appreciate the corrections and clarifications that you pointed out to the staff report. And I will ask my fellow commissioners if you have any questions of the applicant.
Just have one question. My name's Bill Cross, and I really do like the design. I think it's the best thing that's come across the desk, that I just look at it and I go, wow, they did it right.
Thank you.
And but the one question I have is, did you anticipate solar panels being put on this?
We haven't
So
got,
where?
we haven't really got to that place yet to talk about solar panels, but it has a very large, you know, east and west exposure. There is a south exposure at the back. Are you concerned about where solar panels would go or that they would be visible?
Right. It looks like they could go on the dormer behind, not visible really from the street.
Well, so if I could back up, your concern is about where solar panels may potentially be located?
Yeah. If that was considered.
No, we have not considered it yet. I think I understand your point that, you know, that it should be handled sensitively. and that solar panels can overwhelm a house. And I think we'll art direct it to the best of our ability.
Mhm. Okay. I think there's plenty of opportunities.
Yes, there are. Yes, there are, especially on the west side or on the south.
I just have one kind of comment question. One of the Secretary of Interior standards that we look at is any remodels, the new work should be differentiated from the old work. So there's a clear distinction between the old and the new. How would you describe that in this house?
You know, this is a question that I've dealt with quite often in my career because I have a background in historic restoration, and there is no way that we could ever make this house with new construction methods match exactly what's there. Now, we're not trying to fool anyone, but the detail of proposed windows will probably be different than the existing windows. And I think that, and the lumber sizes will be a little bit different because we can't match lumber sizes, that they will be subtle differentiation. But I think that, at least in my practice and my personal and professional philosophy is that if you look carefully enough, and if I can stand next to you and tell you about it, I can tell you how the building is differentiated from the original. But I also do have another quick question for you, if I
Sure.
can back up. In previous discussions with staff, we were asked if we could relocate original windows, wood casement windows. We are going to be, of course, matching and providing new TM Cobb or similar kind of wood windows. But of course, the existing windows are all single glazed, correct? The new windows would be what we call a simulated divided light,
Right.
so that the mutton bars are very slender and they match the profile of the existing windows as closely as possible. But I wanted to see if this is a deal breaker for you, relocating and reusing single glazed windows in a situation that may be a little dicey because these are almost 80-year-old windows or 90-year-old windows, and the idea of actually having to restore them and do what we can to make them energy efficient, et cetera, whether it would, again, whether it's a deal breaker if we did not relocate original windows and actually shown the ones that are in your packet as new dual glazed windows.
Yeah, the short answer is no, it's not a deal breaker. You know, the staff is correct that our guidelines encourage the reuse and relocation of windows. And I think I saw some indicated on the plans. Was that correct? That you were going to be reusing? and
Yes, we were
relocating
asked by
some?
staff
Yeah,
in a
okay.
previous iteration, and we said, well, okay, I have some reservations about that because I don't know whether we can get through a Title 24 evaluation.
Well, and you just gave me a great segue to what I was going to say next, which is, you know, we recognize the difference between single glaze and double glaze when it comes to Title 24 compliance. That difference is also recognized in the state of California's historic building code, which gives you more latitude as to how you comply with energy efficiency and doesn't make the only choice, you know, dual glazed windows. That being said, if you determine through evaluation of those existing single glazed windows that they are not of a sufficient condition to reuse and or they would be problematic in achieving your Title 24 compliance, then I don't think, if I may speak for the commission, I don't think we would have any qualms about you using the proposed TM Cobb product.
I appreciate the clarification.
All right, any other questions of the applicant? Okay, thank you very much.
Very welcome.
Hey, at this point, I do need to open the public hearing. So I will ask staff, are there any public comments received for this item, either in person or via Zoom?
We have not received a request for public comment in chambers. Attendees participating on Zoom, please click the hand icon to make a public comment on item number 5. We do not have public comments via Zoom.
Okay, very good. So then let's begin commission discussion. And I think I'll lead off on this one. First, I want to extend kudos and congratulations to the designer for their work on this project. I think it incorporates a really good approach to providing additional floor area for a growing family in a historic home. Rather than choose to add on to the bulk and mass of the home, you've chosen to work with uh, the existing roof ridge, the existing hip roof, as sort of your lodestar to guide you on where the additional floor area is going to come from, and you've made that area usable and accessible through the use of dormers, which dormers are a perfectly appropriate feature on this style of home. Um, Again, I like the fact that the front elevation is virtually unchanged with only the absence of the chimney, and you can partially see one of the dormers on the east side. And again, I appreciate what was articulated about how the differentiation that's required under the Secretary's standards can be achieved in this case. So first off, kudos to the designer for this project. Secondly, I want to thank the applicants for their patience. 9 months, you can have a kid in that time, and hopefully we give birth to a nice project tonight. But I'll stop with the puns, please. And so again, thank you for your patience and your willingness to work with staff to come up with workable solutions to these design issues. Then lastly, and this is really more a question for my fellow commissioners, one thing that is noted in our design guidelines for historic homes is that chimneys should be retained in their original form, material, and detailing. Spark arresters should be compatible with the structure. That's found on page 27 of our design guidelines. In this case, the existing chimney is proposed to be removed. Any thoughts about that? Do you feel strongly enough about it that you would require maybe a faux chimney because there is no proposed fireplace on the second or first floor in this home? Or are you okay with that feature being removed?
I have no problem with eliminating the chimney. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I think the placement of a faux one would be problematic given
Yeah.
the new roof plan and the intersection of the planes of the roof. So very good. I appreciate that clarification. That's all I had.
That's the case, then I would make a motion that we approve the project as submitted. We can make the mandatory findings. We can make project-specific findings. Number two, that this project is appropriate to the size and the design and context of the historic neighborhood. Number three, in the case of an addition or enlargement, the project provides a real distinction between the new and historic elements. And the project, finding number five, it adds substantial new living space while preserving the single-story nature of the house.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second. Staff, could we please call the roll?
Commissioner Cross,
Yes.
Commissioner Morrish,
Yes.
Chair Gallatin,
Yes.
motion carries.
Congratulations, your project is approved.
Good.
Mhm. Thank you. Okay, at this time, we'll ask Commissioner Ding to rejoin the meeting. Yeah. I didn't bring. Ashbourne? No.
Adjacent to, just east of Johnson. That little street, is it called
That's-
Shade Street?
That goes out to Garfield?
Amherst.
Oh, Amherst.
Yeah, you know that remodel that they just did on that corner? It's gonna look a lot like this.
Hmm.
Oh,
Hmm.
yeah? Oh, interesting, yeah.
Okay, let the record show that Commissioner Ding rejoined the meeting at 7:51 PM. And now is the administration section of our agenda. And we start off, as always, with comments from our city council liaison, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce her tonight as Mayor Evelyn Znaimer.
Thank you. That sounds very ominous. And didn't really sink in until this morning. And I said, "Oh my gosh, there's a lot of strings attached to it." So, but I'm really hoping that I can survive this year. I mean, the next year. But I'm so excited. Yeah, I already was given a schedule. January 2nd, I'm gonna hit the road running,
Very good. Very good.
and I have no other comments. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Now, comments from commissioners.
Am I correct? Is this your last meeting?
In all likelihood, that's why when it came to my turn for comments, I was going to ask to defer until the very end. Comments from staff.
Okay.
I have about 50 pages of prepared remarks. No, I don't. Just wanted to scare you. But no, I would like to say something at the end in the event this is my swan song.
Okay, well, I'd just like to say that I've been in staff to committees and commissions for 40 years with Pasadena first, and then secondly with the County of Los Angeles. And I've seen a lot of people, chairpersons, over those years, and I have never seen one as good as you.
Thank you, sir. Truly
And,
appreciate that.
You're just so prepared and so clear. Thank you.
You.
I would echo those remarks and I would, I mean, I've sat on every commission, I think I'm in this city, for 25 years, but, you are an excellent chairperson and this commission has been served very well by you. And I would encourage the mayor, as you're looking at new applicants, to take a long, hard look at them and wait as long as you need to, because Mark can serve until you name a new placement. But the knowledge he has, the historic preservation knowledge he has, the ability to chair these meetings is hard to come by, and I certainly don't have it. And never profess to have it, so it's invaluable, and you're gonna have a tough job trying to replace him, but take as long as you'd like, because that means he has to keep showing up. But thank you, Mark. You've been
Thank you, Chris.
extraordinary.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, I would like to say the same. Mark is always very well prepared. He's very thorough. He catches every issue with the staff report or the plans. He's just incredibly thorough. His experience in planning and we are going to, it's a huge loss to the commission, and it will be very difficult to find anyone who even comes close to his ability to lead this commission and do chair review and review projects. So you have a very difficult job, Madam Mayor,
No
and
pressure, Evelyn. No pressure.
and yeah, I just a little bit more background. We renovated our house in 2019, and Mark was the chair at the time, and we had gone through this commission and we had gone through chair reviews with Mark, and it was a good experience dealing with Mark, and now I got to serve with him for a year, and so it's been an honor, and I wish you luck, and I hope you stick around and on another commission and continue to serve the community.
All right. Thank you so much, Jeremy. Appreciate all those comments. Do we have any comments from subcommittees this evening?
So I guess I have one comment, because I also believe that Vice Chair Lopez is going to term out as well.
Mhm.
And so from a procedural aspect, him and I are on a subcommittee together. So would the commission just have to appoint a new person to serve on that subcommittee?
He's eligible for one more term.
Oh,
I
okay,
believe.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Good, excellent. I was very confused because if anybody watched the council meeting yesterday, they gave outgoing commission certificates to everybody that finished a term, whether it was their first, last, or partial.
Right.
So I was like, all these people are leaving, and then staff actually told me, no, only 4 people are actually terming out. Everyone else were just thanking for them for their term. So it was very confusing to me, but so it's good to know that he would be coming back. No updates from the subcommittee. We're continuing to work on 1716 Wayne. Not much progress. I don't know what's going on with that. I think Bradley was actually out this week also. So we'll probably revisit that next year. Yeah, nothing else.
Okay. Comments from staff?
Thank you, Chair, members of the commission. Matt Chang, planning manager here. So staff has just very few comments. First of all, thank you. Congratulations, Madam Mayor. So looking forward working with you for the next years. So thank you. Congratulations. And I think to answer some of the questions, yes, Vice Chair Lopez, it is termed out, but like Commissioner Morse mentioned, that he is eligible to reapply. So what staff did, it was not just this particular commission, but also was other commission that planning division is working with. So I kind of placed a call with each of the commissioner to remind them that if they're eligible, they should staff encourage them to reapply to kind of continue serving the community. So not just commission, but also planning commission, design review board. So staff did reach out to all the commissioners. So
Oh, I have a question. So if the process now, when you finish your first term or your first partial term, you have to like go to the website and actually reapply? Because when I was on public safety, they kind of just said, are you amenable to being reappointed? And I said, yes. And then I was reappointed without having to actually do the proactive step of reapplying.
it is my understanding that city clerk process for the city clerk, they want the termed out commissioner to reapply to be officially kind of filling their application,
Okay.
submitting to make it official that he or she would like to continue
Okay.
to serve on that particular commission or another one.
Okay.
So we do have that kind of more formal.
Yeah. That's fine.
Applying.
I just wanted to ask and clarify the process change. Thank you.
And I think to address Commissioner Dean's question that what if Vice Chair Lopez decide not to come back to this commission? What happened to the subcommittee? So if that's the particular case, now of course staff will bring the item to the commission to form a new subcommittee. But that's I think the procedural wise. I think a couple of things staff would like to all of us staff would like to thank Chair Gallatin. I think I don't need to get into too much, but I think with your expertise, your preparation, I think your temperament, how you handle the meeting, staff really appreciate it because sometimes there are controversial issues or contentious discussion between the property owner, the neighbors, but I think Chair Gallatin handled it really well, kind of control the meeting, control the flow, and kind of keep us in track, continue moving on to the next item. So staff wish you all the best of luck, but staff also will love to work with you on other commission if you do choose. And I think one other thing is I want to thank all the commissioners and Madam Mayor, happy holidays, and thank you all for this past years. We did a lot of housing elements, specific plan, general plan update with all the application that your commission has reviewed. Also for Chair Gallatin's review, close to 100 chair review applications. So that's a lot. We did a lot this year. So we continue to work with this body the next year. So I just want to say everybody happy holidays.
Very good. Thank you, Matt. Well, before we adjourn, I just want to take just a couple minutes to make some comments, seeing as this likely is my final meeting here on this dais as a member of this commission. I want to first say what an honor and a privilege it's been to serve our community for the last 7.5 years. The time has flown, it seems like, since I was first appointed back in July 2016. And it's been most gratifying to serve with folks of the caliber that are seated to my left and my right tonight, as well as those that were seated here previously in other iterations of the commission. Everyone to a person has really upheld what it means to be a good, effective commissioner in this city or any city. And, you know, that is a sensitivity to the community, a good dose of common sense and pragmatism, and a willingness to work collaboratively towards solutions. And again, just so honored to serve with the folks up here. My colleague Bill, a former planner like myself, with the city of Pasadena and the county. You know, he certainly has seen planning from that side, as have I, and I always appreciate his wise comments that he makes up here on these projects before us. Chris, a former planning commissioner and other commissions as well. Again, a model of pragmatism, someone who practices what I preach, which is pragmatic preservation. I remember when I was being interviewed by, at the time, Mayor Mahmood, before being initially appointed, she asked me for my thoughts and philosophy on preservation. And I said, I really believe that we should practice pragmatic preservation. I said, our city, fairly or unfairly, has gotten a reputation at that time of being extremely difficult to work with, extremely difficult to get anything approved. Had a reputation that you know, South Pass, they don't approve anything. They're kind of like the preservation police, you know. And I said, you know, hopefully I can bring some modicum of stability and pragmatism to the commission so that we're not in an adversarial relationship with our neighbors, that instead we are in an educational setting and we try to educate folks about why preservation is important. And we work with them, you know, towards that goal when they come to us with projects. And hopefully we've been able to succeed in that. And then also, I wanted to recognize my newest colleague up here, Commissioner Ding. It's been just so great serving with you, Jeremy. I am so impressed. The man is ethical. He's got integrity, and it shows every time he speaks up here and takes action. So the commission is in good hands with Commissioner Ding. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Vice Chair Lopez. Thank God he's an architect and he's on this commission, because I know in serving with him on several subcommittees where we've been working with applicants to solve design issues. I mean, I can verbally conceptualize what I see as the solution, but ask me to draw it, and you know, I can't even draw the drapes, let alone draw you know, a building. So it's really helpful to have Conrado's technical expertise in architecture on a commission like this. And then I also want to say again, congratulations to our new mayor, Mayor Znaimer, and especially thank you so much. I think you've now completed 2 years in a row, if I'm not mistaken, as our liaison here at the CHC. And you have been unfailing in your support for this commission and all that we do. And I sincerely appreciate it, and all the time that you spend, not only on this commission, but on behalf of our community at large. And lastly, I want to turn to I call them my fellow planners, even though I'm retired, the staff that we have here. Just a tremendous team that we have. I had the honor of actually working with Matt in another city a few years ago and got to know him and his talents. And I was thrilled when I found out he was coming here to South Pasadena to become our planning manager. And then I got to meet and work with some new folks like Tatiana and Dean and some of the planners that are not here this evening. And again, find them to be just consummate professionals. The work that they do, the time that they put into these reports, they make it look so easy. It's not easy, as Bill can attest. It's not easy to prepare these reports and to do the research and to do it accurately and to stand up there and make the presentations and field our questions coming from left field, often from this seat. And I just really appreciate all that you guys do. again, on behalf of our residents, because that's what it's all about. They're our customers. This is a democracy. It's a government of the people, and we're here to serve those people. So again, I just want to say thank you to everybody and hope to see you around. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay, we are adjourned until the regular meeting of Thursday, January